Hi everyone, my name is Celeste and I'm a Devrel at Virtual Protocol. So in today's video, I'm going to share an update on the Agent Sandbox. So the reason why we're doing this is because we've recorded some videos about GameLite in the past, and we've actually launched quite a few features in Sandbox since then. So we wanted to take a chance to kind of, especially in the past like 2 weeks, so like purely in the Agent Sandbox itself. So we wanted to take the chance to kind of share with you guys a little bit more about the new features, as well as kind of do a quick like update because through a video, since some of you have asked about it. We might actually share more content about the details of some of these features, but we thought to start off it would be good to kind of give an like a video overview of like the new features and and what's coming up. Okay. So first of all, okay, I wanted to talk about the agent profile. So under agent profile, there's agent goal. This hasn't changed a lot. If you recall from the previous video, the agent goal is basically like the most important kind of the most important part of defining the high level plan for the agent. Okay. And there's also the agent description. Now you'll notice that the world information has disappeared. Okay, that's because we thought that the agent description and world information has a lot of similarities, and we just decided to kind of combine all of them into a single text box. So basically, if all this while you were kind of defining world information, what you can do is to basically combine your agent description and world information in this single text box, and you will kind of function the same way. Okay. Now you also notice that now under agent knowledge, there's this dataset upload feature. This is a highly requested feature. We know that, a lot of you have been asking for it. We once had this feature and it kind of disappeared. Now it's back. Okay, so in this particular upload, functionality, you can drag and drop any files to kind of let your agent like retrieve it. So you can actually upload various types of file formats such as PDF and TXT files. The maximum file size will be 10 megabytes, and try to keep the number of files low as well. Okay, or else it might not function that well. Okay, so keep the number of files low. Don't upload data sets which are way too huge. What happens when you actually upload this data sets is that we will store it in our database. And then this data set will actually be used when users reply or post messages. In a sense, we will kind of feed this into the query via the tweet enrichment. And let me actually illustrate where this is used. So you actually need to be pretty careful about using the parameter correctly. So if you look at tweet enrichment, okay, and you kind of scroll down to, okay, if you go to prompt template and you look at the default prompt, you'll see that retrieve knowledge is here. Now, what does retrieve knowledge mean? Okay, going back to the helper text here, retrieve knowledge is basically retrieve from the system. And what's this system? This system is basically the data set you just uploaded. So as long as you actually use the retrieve knowledge parameter, your agent will actually be using the information you uploaded in your data set. Okay. So next, I'll talk a bit about heartbeat. Now, this is not really a new concept to most of you, but just to do a very quick recap, for under heartbeat, there's general and there's reply. So when the general settings is at 15 minutes, what this means is that every 15 minutes, the agent is going to look for something to do out of all the functions which are defined below. We also call this the action space in some of our documentation. Okay, so every 15 minutes, the agent will kind of look for something to do among its action space. Okay, so that's actually kind of the main loop, or the main high level plan, which kind of gets broken down into low level plans. Okay, so what does reply tweets mean in a heartbeat sense of things? Okay, so what this means is that every 5 minutes, the agent is actually going to look for tweets where it's mentioned in and reply to it if it's relevant. Okay, and this setting can, what exactly it defines as relevant can actually be configured under the reply worker, which I'll talk about shortly. But what you need to know is that kind of the general or the main loop differs from the reaction module. And if you are looking at the terminal logs, you will also see that this is kind of broken out into two tabs. So the I think it's the main module as well as the reaction module. Okay, so workers. There's a little bit more customization here compared to what we used to have. So the reply worker actually allows you to kind of provide instructions for your agents, kind of to tell your agent precisely how it could handle replies. Now previously this was in a sense hard coded as this task description. Okay. So by the way, in case you haven't noticed, reply workers corresponds to reply tweets. Okay. So every time, in a sense, every time every time your agent is trying to reply a tweet, it is actually calling a reply worker. Okay, which is like a very specialized worker which only replies to tweets. And this reply worker has a task description. So basically this reply worker's task description is to process the incoming tweet, ignore it if it's boring or unimportant, and then blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now obviously you can actually customize it now, which means that this is not fixed. If you want, you can customize this a little bit more. So I mean, there are various things you can do here, but like an example of what you can do is just to say, just pretty random, but like if someone says hi to you, say bye, or something like this. It could be fairly random. Okay, basically this is where you can actually change the settings if you want. Okay, you could even remove the need to ignore if you want. Okay, so this is actually where you can kind of play around with a reply worker. You can also see that in this worker section, you also have the option to configure workers now. Now, the very first worker is Twitter main location. Now you can add worker if you like, and it could have a different name, a different description, okay, different environment. Now, actually, workers, if you like to understand it better, is best described in our documentation. Okay, so in our game overview documentation, we actually describe agents and workers. And to understand it a little bit better, okay, you can think of workers as more specialized kind of people, more specialized kind of compartments, okay, of what the agent is trying to do. So whenever you actually provide a goal to your agent, it basically has this like task generator, which would kind of pass and based on it will come up with this high level plan, and then have this task generator which kind of passes on like tasks to various workers. How it actually passes on tasks to its workers is based on like what the worker is specialized in. So actually that's actually in the worker description, which are in a sense prompts. Okay, so this design is to kind of like make like the design of having multiple workers like linked to a particular agent is to kind of have each worker more specialized in something, and this kind of increase the effectiveness of being able to do things more effectively. In a sense, it's described here. Okay, this hierarchical architecture kind of prevents super large action spaces. And this means that there's better performance because each worker is very specialized at its one thing, and that means that it does it really well. For example, if there's like a Twitter worker, it means that it does tweets really well. If there's a worker which is, for example, doing research, it will do it really well, and all of that will be kind of defined in the prompts. Okay, so previously we didn't have this, and some of you actually like kind of gave us feedback that perhaps if your agent is supposed to do something a little bit more complex, or for example in games where there could be multiple things your autonomous agent is trying to do, okay, this can actually make your agent function a lot more effectively. So we highly encourage you guys, especially those who are building more complex agents to actually try and play around with having multiple workers to see if this allows you to get things done, allows your agent to get things done more effectively. Okay, so have a different description for each worker and kind of see if this allows the workers to complete tasks more effectively and therefore, of course, ensure that the agent is able to do things more effectively. Okay. A few other, and by the way, if you guys want more details, feel free to look at our white paper. Okay. There are a few more things here. So there's whitelist of wallets. You'll probably realize, okay, if I want to talk about whitelist of wallets, I guess the best way to start is to kind of explain that we actually have some new features here. Okay, so for example, you can send money right now. Okay, so the whole whitelist functionality is linked to send money. What it means that so to kind of add some additional safeguards, we kind of have this, we kind of put a setting where you can whitelist the wallets you want to send money to via your agent. So basically, agents can only send money to whitelist wallets. If you want to whitelist the wallets, you basically add it right here. This is a beta feature, so kind of still in testing. Agent interaction is also a feature which is in testing right now. So this is for the request service function, which I'll also talk about in a bit. Okay. If you click on SDK or API access, okay, you can see this is where you can actually get your API key, okay? And if you actually get your API key, you can run some of your code in the host. Okay, so the API key here, okay, just to highlight, it's specifically for the hosted agent. So what you need to do is to actually access the hosted agent SDK is to go to the Python repo, okay, go to source, game SDK, hosted game, and read through the documentation. But basically what it means that basically you get the API key from where I just showed you guys, and you store this API key in as an environment variable, okay, env file, bash rc file, something like that, okay. And after you store this API key, you should be able to run some of the sample codes. Okay, next I'll talk a bit about X setup. Okay, so some of you would have noticed that there's more customization around tweet enrichment now. Okay, first up, what's tweet enrichment? Okay, tweet enrichment, in case you didn't know, is actually this separate like large language model engine which we have to kind of enrich the tweets which are generated by game itself. So game itself, game generated tweets actually have a temperature of 0. So what 0 means is that what 0 for temperature means is that the tweets it generates has like 0 personality and 0 tone. Okay, so behind the hood, okay, what tweet enrichment does is that, okay, it takes the tweet generated by game, it passes it through this additional LLM engine, and it kind of like enriches this. Okay, and then based on all of these settings here, the response generation, the numbers, it kind of generates all these responses, and it picks randomly from here. So basically, it will generate a 10-word response and generate a 20-word response, and it will pick randomly between the two of them in this case. Okay. And then, yeah, so if you enable tweet enrichment, this means that your agent produces, posts or response which have more personality, but it also means that there's a bit more uncertainty. Now, we understand that some of you don't like this uncertainty because you want like a very fixed form of output, or you want your output to be, a lot more certain. And this could apply in scenarios where you want specific URLs or IDs or information links or something like that to be actually passed into your, your tweets, your posts or your replies. Now, in that case, you might want to use the game tweet content instead. Okay. So XPrompt configuration, this hasn't changed a lot except for the fact that retrieve knowledge is now available. Okay, so just make sure you take note of that. Response generation, again, this hasn't changed a lot. Just to highlight the same, just to highlight again, you would want to take very special note to always ensure you have responses here, at least one response, or you could have multiple to actually have some variety to responses. You could also set your temperature, top K, top P, repetition penalties. All these haven't changed a lot, so I won't elaborate on them. For the replies, you can also tweak temperature and all that. And you could also tweak your response generation. Okay, so all these hasn't changed that much. Browsing list, okay, is where you can actually select enter a list of usernames for the browse content function, a browse tweet content from influential users function. Okay, so you can actually edit this and save accordingly. If you would like to use your own X credentials, you can actually configure it here. Otherwise, you can also use game credentials. And just going down to the functions, okay? So I will just talk a bit about some of the newer functions. So request service is a little bit newer, okay? So request service is kind of this function which allows your agent to do agent-to-agent interaction. So this is new, it is beta. If you guys are interested to experiment with it, test it out, you can talk to us as well. Okay, what this means is that you can actually engage in a conversation with an agent to request for a service. Okay, this could be anything for like trying to buy food from an agent, trying to, for example, request for like a song or a dance from Luna, something like this, okay? And you can tweak this accordingly. Obviously, there is, you want to, if you want to actually pay for this service, this is where you define the amount and kind of linking this to make payment, okay? Make payment is actually kind of where you pay for a particular service. Now you realize that, okay, as you can tell from the description, there's actually a link between like the two. So you actually use this, you kind of, you're, in this prompt, you're kind of telling the agent to use this, use this make payment function to send payment for a service requested or send money using a Twitter username. Okay, so you can make payment, send money is also available. This is when you're trying to send money for particular thing. So this is actually not really linked to a request service. Okay. And again, you can enter in the amount. Like before, you can also add custom functions. And you can also configure the worker accordingly based on that. You can also you can also configure various things in your custom function like the workers, arguments, the hints, okay? So hints, some of you might not know this, but hint is actually to give, additional context or information to a particular function. Okay. And all of these hasn't really changed much as well. Okay, you can also add a price now that there's various functions related to the price. Okay, so same as before, you can import and export an agent. There is a new functionality here to reset your sandbox session. In case you're wondering what this is for, now some of you might have noticed that sometimes you might really want your agent memory to be reset. This could happen when, for example, your agent gets stuck in a very dark loop while it's trying to solve a technical issue. An issue which comes out every now and then is an agent which has some problem trying to post a tweet, for example. And if it keeps failing to post a tweet, it could be trying to search the internet for methods on how to solve that bug. Or it could be trying to, search various like APIs or various internet tools to try and figure out what's wrong. Or like go and find another social media platform to actually try and post things. and then it just keeps going on and do that and trying to do that again and again. That's what I mean by a dark loop. Okay, so if that's getting like really annoying and you just can't get your agent out of that very dark loop, what you can do is just to reset the session. And when you reset a session, basically what that means is that your agent starts from a clean slate. Okay, so basically like the high level plan, low level plan is kind of like all fresh and new. Okay. Same as before, you can click simulate to kind of simulate what your, do a simulate reaction, simulate output, okay? To kind of test how your agent would, react to specific post IDs, or, run a few simulations to see how it will kind of function in the main loop, okay? And same as before, the deploy agent button still exists. Okay, so I mentioned this in the previous video, but just to reiterate, the deploy button, okay, so when you're actually making those changes and saving it, you're actually kind of making these changes in Sandbox, but to actually get your, get all these settings for the agent actually deployed to Twitter, like live, okay, and actually be like a functioning, Twitter agent, okay, with all of those, goals, descriptions, and all that, you would actually kind of need to click deploy and get the agent deployed to production. Now, as you can see, there's a success message now. If you scroll up, okay, and you click on click to view live version, this will actually show what are the actual agent configurations which are live in production. Okay. And as you can see, when it's live in production, you actually can't change all of these agent goals descriptions and basically all of these configurations. These are just mainly for your reference, but sometimes just to cross-check that everything you wanted to set has actually been set correctly and is live in production, it will be good to come to this particular view to just see that everything is configured correctly. Okay, but obviously this is not really an editable view. Now, if you want to go back and make edits, you can go to Sandbox, make some more tweaks, save, and then click deploy again. Okay, with that, I'm kind of done with this very basic intro to the Sandbox. Okay, see you guys next time, and we'll continue working on more content to help you guys like understand Sandbox as well as our SDK and other tools better. Thank you.